Hey writer, if you're ready to level up, then buckle up. Get your pen and paper ready. It's time for another episode of the Art and Business of Writing podcast.
Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of the Art and Business of Writing podcast, where my guest today is Marilen Crump. Marilen Crump, hashtag expert dreamcatcher, is a business coach, marketing strategist, and owner of Art Inspired LLC, which she established in 2000 that serves creatives, entrepreneurs, online course creators, marketing professionals, writers, speakers, and more. She's the president of the Phenomenal Female Business Network, whose mission is to help women develop their passions, grow their audience, achieve business milestones, and fund their dreams. She's the #1 Amazon best-selling author and professional speaker who has spoken on numerous stages and summits. Notable appearances include the Citizen International, Hampton Roads Home-Based Business Conference, Historic Triangle Economic Development, and York County Chamber of Commerce, Thomas Nelson Community College, the Design View Conference, and NASA. Marilen is also the creator of Dream Success Strategy and prioritizes mindset and self-development in every aspect of her life and career. Guys, please welcome Meredith Crump to the podcast. Hey, Marilen, welcome to the show. Can you expand upon your bio a little bit for us?
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I think, one of the things that I love to say is that there's always something new around the corner when it comes to the things that I do, because I'm a problem solver. So expanding on the bio just means that I am here to build new programs. Like this one that I have coming up is about 30 days for branded blogging. And so it's all about like, all right, there's things going on that's going to be innovative and I got to be moving with the market. So that's who I am. I'm the expert dream catcher and I'm doing what it takes to like find all of those wonderful nuggets and bring it to my audience.
I love that you said that, moving with the market. I think that's, I was talking to a friend the other day about the book, Who Moved My Cheese, and like the whole thing about always moving, like put your sneakers on and every day get up to go find the cheese, because if not, you end up getting, falling behind, especially in a time like now, like we're coming out of this coming out of the first, I don't know what you call it, of the pandemic. But the fact that you see that the market has changed, everything's different now, and that you have to be ready for the next, to stay ahead of the curve or be ready for the next phase.
Absolutely, all the time. And I don't think it's ever going to go backwards. So our children are going to be in this more accelerated mindset. And that's partly where I don't want to be, is in this weird divide where there's this one part of the world that's like moving faster. And then I'm still in that old school, like, I'll return a message in 2 days, or like, I'll just take my time writing that thing. We're not in that phase anymore.
No, absolutely not. So let's dive into who you are. You're the expert dream catcher. What exactly does that mean?
So that is one of the nicknames that actually a friend of mine gave me, because way back in the day, I was doing a lot of like freelance performing and modeling, and people would say, Marilen, how do I get into that? And I said, you know what? I'm going to make your dreams happen and I'll introduce you to different people. And so people would say, oh, you're my expert dream catcher. And then people would give me like gifts about, with dream catchers and stuff like that. But then fast forward to, I think it was 2017, and we were chasing the eclipse. And I said, you know what? There's something that I do all the time when I'm helping people make these goals happen. And so I was starting to come up with like, a system, and what should I call it? And I was like, you know what? There's always like a way for you to pick what you want to do. And that stands for direction. And I said, what word starts with that? And I was like, what about dream? And then I started walking through the word, and I said, you know what? It actually is the way I do things. So it's direction, relinquish. You got to stop doing what it is that's holding you back. And then efficiency, because if you read the book, like Think and Grow Rich, like the biggest chapter in that book is organized planning. And I'm all about like being efficient and not getting stuck in like redundancies and things like that. So I was like, you got to be efficient, and then you got to take action. So that's the A in dream. And then when you do all that, then you reach this momentum point, and that's the M. And I was like, hey, dream. That's how you do the goal. I pretty much feel like an expert in that. And I'm like, wait, I already have the perfect motif, which is the dream catcher. So I just think it was meant to be. Like, this has been my calling, and there's been hints of that for years now. And then I'm just living in my purpose. So I am expert dream catcher.
I love that acronym though. I've never heard that broken down in such a way, and I think that's phenomenal though. I love, like you said, direction, relinquishing, efficiency, action, and momentum.
You got it.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, so we all have big dreams, right? Whether that's to write a book or to be published in a magazine or to write a screenplay. Why do we fall short of our dreams so much? Like, why do people with big dreams seem to not realize those?
I think it's a matter of perspective because if you talk to those people who actually have done it, they kind of look at you like, I just did another one of those yesterday. And you're wait a minute. How come that seems doable to you? And they'll tell you, look, it just takes that right kind of positioning. Somebody who's, let's say they got into a group and everybody that's around them is doing that thing, then it's kind of inevitable, right? Like by osmosis, they start becoming that they hang around with. So one, you got to look at like what is surrounding you, because if you feel like something like that is impossible, more than likely you're probably surrounded by other people who feel like those are too huge and that's impossible, it's never been done. But then you move into another circle and they're like, yeah, all my friends are doing that, like we're always making money, and you're thinking, wait a minute, this is it. I need to be in that zone. So that's the first thing that I talk to people about, saying, what are you influenced by? And like, how is like the voices in your head shaping up because of what you hear on a day to day? So I say start there.
Now, I like that you talk about who you were influenced by. 'Cause I think that associations are definitely very important. And like that old Jim Rohn quote, you are the sum of the five people you spend the most time with. Um, like so for people who want to level up their game, do you suggest they just completely change associations, like, well, or do they start hanging around like different circles, or hanging around the circles of the people or the industries they want to be in? What are your thoughts on that?
I think you have to assess definitely who's around you right now, because there's some people who are, I'm a dream catcher. There's some people there who are dream blockers. Okay, so first you got to get rid of the dream blockers, and then you can think straight. And of course, you got to go where the energy's at. So if you're like, oh, I want to be like this award-winning musician or this published writer, and there's nobody to bounce off ideas with, and there's no one to collaborate and move you further. I'm always a big seeker of things that I don't know, and I say, who knows what I don't know? And then I got to go find that person, because it's all just about like information gathering and also getting good feedback. And I think that that's how a lot of things happen. That's why networking works for a lot of different types of people, having good connections, because somebody who believes in your passion just says, you know what, instead of you working so hard, I'm going to help you, or I'm going to make an introduction. I need you to meet so and so. I think they're going to be able to help you out. Go in that track. Dreams aren't actually impossible for those who have a lot of people cheering them on and supporting them.
Very true. Yeah, I like to call those the dream blockers, the yeah but people.
Yeah.
Those because like the people you tell them, oh yeah, I'm gonna write this great book and I'm gonna write it about this and do that and the other, and they're like, yeah, but da 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 da. Or it's that situation where they'll say, oh yeah, but you know how hard it is to do that. So it's like that false sense of supportiveness, like, oh yeah, I believe you can do it, but do you know how hard it is? Have you thought about how much work it's going to be? And then you realize that at the end of the day that person really isn't supportive at all.
No, not at all. And I think that's kind of a detriment to both of the parties, the person saying that to the person who's dreaming, and then the person listening to that. You have to protect your psyche. You have to keep yourself in a bubble, and not taint yourself with people who may not be as courageous, right? It takes a little bit of courage because it's the unknown. But think of all the things that you've ever done that was like impossible before. Maybe it was playing the piano, and or maybe it was like writing your first poem. There's all these things that seem like a challenge at first, but then you get better at it, you build the muscle, and you start kind of seeing, oh, all of these things that really held me back was in my head. It wasn't ability, it wasn't even that I wasn't brilliant enough, it was just because I was too afraid to try.
Yeah, I think we live in that age right now in terms of like pursuing dreams, where social media teaches us to show the intention and not the result. So it's like, oh, here's what I plan to do, here's what I'm going to do, and then everyone gets inside there like vultures and kind of picks you apart until you don't do it. And it's like, I'm a big believer in like showing the results. Oh, here's what I did already. here's what I did. Here's what I did. How important is it for a person to, like you said, garden psyche? How important is it for a person to keep their dreams close to the chest, or at the very least, keeping it close to people who are truly supportive of it and who encourage them to go forward in it?
I think it depends on your own level of acceptance for yourself. If you're easily swayed by other people's opinions, then you definitely need to be in that mode, like you said, working on it, having something to show for it. And especially if it's your first go round, because some people need the proof, right, in order to really support you. But then in other times, like here's where I find myself, since I'm a coach, I'm a mentor, and I help people with development, they are coming with just that idea. They are coming with just the intention. And sometimes that is enough. And you have to start somewhere. And I think that's a beautiful space to be because there's nothing to unlearn. There's nothing that you haven't failed at yet. So, of course, if you can learn the good things early on and find the right resources early on, then you're not having to undo certain things. So, what you have to do yourself, if you have this intention, you don't yet have the experience, find the people who will gently guide you into the next step. Also, that they will be good supporters, not just there to pick you apart, but there to really help you grow. And it's all about expanding your mind, being aligned with the right people. Don't fall for the get rich quick schemes that are out there. That's everywhere. People are like, just do it like me and you're going to get rich. That's really tough because the market is saturated with a lot of things. You're going to have to find your unique angle. So development takes a minute, but you don't want to be confusing yourself with other things that just may not be lucrative, but also it's just a big waste of time or definitely is not supporting you with the way you want to go.
All right. And now, so how much does a person's mindset and belief system play into achieving any level of success? Because you can have all the skill sets, you can have all the intentions, but if your mindset and belief system aren't in alignment, how can that impair you?
Oh wow, that's a really good thing right there because like the placebo effect, there's also like the opposite of that, right? Like people can actually manifest illness and then get migraines because they just aren't clicking with something that they're doing. Um, so I've seen the physical effects of what a mindset can do. So if it's affecting you that way physically, think about your motivation. Think about the things that you have to do as a creative, as an entrepreneur. You have to really do things that is a little bit more than most people. So you have to be willing to like dive in. But if you don't have the motivation because your mind is telling you, well, maybe you shouldn't be doing that, then you're not going to be exerting at that much beautiful energy to get things done. So it's definitely a drawback if your self-talk is not positive, if you're like thinking of fear more than you are thinking of like the potential result. Because, the first time you do anything, and we feel this, right? Because we're always in it for instant gratification, especially if you have a microwave. Like you're so used to kind of like popping it in 2 minutes, it's done. We just expect like our business plans to do the same, our writing to do the same, our creativity to do the same. But it takes like a lot of like rewrites and reworking and like kind of, studying it, turning it upside down. And we have to be in love with that process. And a cluttered mind and a negative mind is just not going to be. It's going to actually just start kind of, oh, well, you did that wrong and you should stop right now. And then that's when I hear people saying, well, you know what, I should just go back to my regular job or I should stop doing these things. Like they give themselves that out. But if your mind is strong, you're going to keep yourself in.
Right. So for a person pursuing, how crystal clear do they have to be when they begin to pursue their ideas? Or is it just having a glimpse of the idea enough to get the ball rolling if they put a little action behind it?
I like inspiration, and you've been to certain events where I've taught this, Chris. I love the word ikigai. So, ikigai is a Japanese philosophy on how to find your purpose. You ask yourself four important questions. What are you good at? What do you love? What can you get paid for? And what does the world need? Because sometimes we have great ideas, and if we definitely want it to move the needle for our lives, sometimes it might not land with everybody else. And so you have to be willing to say, is this more of a passion or is this going to be my purpose? So you can categorize different things. Now, as far as being really crystal clear, sometimes asking those 4 questions of myself really starts bringing together like this really even feeling. And then I think to myself, you know what, if I work on that, then that's going to be very fruitful. That's going to support my family. Like I have 5 kids. Maybe I'm in love with an idea, but I have to make sure that those things benefit my family in the long run. So there's other factors when it comes to clarity. I just think that it's always good to have like a trusted advisor. So when you're thinking like, would this be a good path for me? Or what about this idea, that idea? Where 2 or 3 gather, or where you could put 2 heads are better than one. Those are great rules of thumb. So that's what I would suggest.
Okay. And so how do you help creative people or people in general crystallize their vision and overcome limiting beliefs?
I put them through different practices, right, to kind of prove it to themselves. So I love achievable milestones. So, taking things in bite-sized pieces, maybe working backwards from a goal. There's so many different techniques that you could be doing. But overall, I feel like you have to have the fun involved, because if it's not fun, why do it? And if you start there, it's almost like you can do all things with a smile on your face. And, I don't want people aging prematurely because we're trying to build an idea, because they're always frowning about something. Like, you don't want that. You're going to build wrinkles and you want to be a good looking success story. So let's smile the whole time. Okay, let's find all the key things that would be exciting. And then when you're excited, then the people around you will be excited. It just is infectious. It's that kind of contagious energy that you want. So that's mainly what I love to do. But then having a plan, making sure you can execute it, looking at what's in front of you, being able to shift, those are all powerful tools to have in your corner.
Okay. Now, one thing that plagues creative people and that keeps us from starting or finishing is our expectations. It's not enough to write the book, but we need it to be a bestseller. It's not enough to write a script, but we need to get it onto Netflix. Like, how do you teach people to aim high, but at least temper their expectations in the start?
Yeah, I think the question would be why? Why would you want that? Like sometimes I hear people, they come up to me and say, Marilen, I want all these followers, that would mean something to me. And I go, why? Like, okay, why would you want that? Because does that really mean anything? There's certain things out there that tend to be what I call vanity metrics now. And then there's like some people are like, I got to reach 6 figures, but then have like almost 6 figures of expenses. And I'm thinking, why did you do that when you could just make maybe 60,000 and only have like $10,000 of expenses? You're going to be better off than that person who's like, I'm rocking 6 figures, but yet, you know what? They're in debt. So it's really about how you look at the picture. Can you be bestseller? Sure. I mean, nowadays you can trick algorithms to do that. Does it really mean anything to you? Or is it because you say, I want this many people, I want at least, 20,000 people to read this book because I know it's going to help them when they do read it. And I want enough people to write me and say, your book changed my life, or what you wrote down as words like helped me from really, being so down on myself, and it really encouraged me to then create new goals. I think that's the beautiful purpose. And so forget the vanity metrics, know your why.
And I like that because it's like the why goes from it becomes a why that's internal to external versus a why that's external to internal. Like my why becomes something that I use to nurture others versus my why being I need nurturing from others to tell me that I'm successful. Does that makes sense?
Yes, it does. It totally
Yeah,
does.
no, I love that. That's really good. So, I want to close with some action today. For our listeners, what's the best starting point for catching dreams? What's the best starting point for learning to change your mindset, learning to pursue your dreams, and learning to stay consistent enough to see them through?
So consistency and of course making that decision, they're all going to start working hand in hand. And as far as actionable steps would go, first write them down, because sometimes I feel like when you see it in writing, it starts being solid, and it starts becoming an energy of its own. I'm a big practicer of vision boards. So for me, whenever I'm like inspired to change something, I'm like, ooh, let me grab a bunch of magazines and start cutting a bunch of stuff out, because I like seeing that visual representation. And then I also like them to surround myself. So we go back into that whole picture. So maybe it's something that I haven't done before. So one of the things I'm going to start being curious about is like, who's done it? And can I be paying attention? So that's the kind of blogs I'll start listening, podcasts I'll listen to, blogs I'll start reading, and websites I'm visiting, YouTubes, etc. I just start being like this consumer of all of the things in that direction. And then when I'm writing it down, I start kind of looking at it and say, how can I take the next step? And only the next step. And so I've been doing this thing called laser coaching recently, and I just love it. And my clients are loving it. And I'm like, why didn't I think of this before? So how it works is that they are given like a few things to accomplish, and they can have as many calls with me as they wish, right? Um, and what happens though, you cannot schedule that call until you've done that homework. And then when you have a call with me, it's 15 minutes. Like it's really short, but it's to the point. So we're not going to mess around with excuses or anything like that. First of all, you can't get on that call if you have that excuse because you had to have done the homework first. But what I'm seeing from that process is that we're not looking at such a big picture all the time where it becomes overwhelming. We're looking at those bite-sized pieces. We're really achieving everything we said we're going to do. And it creates wonderful habits of like goal setting. And then you're hungry for more. And I just see people really like stepping up and then really qualifying themselves for that next moment of receiving the next steps.
Ooh, I like that. I like that whole idea of just doing things in bite-sized chunks. It's almost like that multiplier effect where it's like I get more excited each week I get something done. I'm seeing the
Yes.
accomplishments starting to stack up on each other,
Woohoo. Yeah.
And then by the time I'm done, I've got a body of work right in my face because I did it in bite-sized chunks, little steps.
Yeah. And I'm sure you've done that with writing a book, just saying, hey, what are my chapter titles? And then if I just have that, what is the first paragraph I'm going to open with? Okay, I got that. How do I want to close this chapter? Okay, I got that. and then
Yeah.
the rest, it kind of falls into place.
Yeah, that's the truth. I mean, I typically start clients off with a synopsis and say, we'll build the synopsis. By the time they get that done, it all opens up before their eyes. Like, wow, I know where my book fits in the market. I know who I'm talking to. I know my chapter titles. I know the I know it all. Then I can
Yeah.
actually write with confidence. I can write knowing where it's going to go and who's going to be reading it and keep that voice in mind. Something you talked about real quick, and I want to go over real fast, is the idea of vision boarding. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I love vision boards. I keep a vision board as well. I know a lot of people, kind of write them off, but I think that vision boarding help. I think. Well, I'll let you talk about vision boarding. Like, how do you believe vision boarding is an essential element in achieving success?
Yeah. So it's almost like how feng shui helps, right? Like in it of itself, it's not going to do anything. It's just a poster. But let's say feng shui, when your house is orderly and clean, then you kind of have like this feeling of like satisfaction and you can move forward. But when you're looking at your goal and it's kind of like this, thing inside your head, but when you pull it out of your head, put it in a picture format, you kind of go, okay, that's the thing. That's the reminder. I'm going to set myself towards that intention and I make sure I'm aligned with the vision board. If you're not aligned with your vision board, one, that's destined to fail. So vision boards themselves have no power. It's really inside you. What kind of reminders you need to say to yourself, that's what I want. That's what I'm going to move towards. Everything else is going to be noise. So you got to put your blinders on, and that really helps you focus. And one of the things that I say when you look at the whole dream success strategy I've created, the direction is where the vision board starts. You still need the other four pieces. So if you just kind of stay there and you say, I made a vision board, it didn't come true, I'll make another one. You're stuck in direction. You have to do the next pieces, the relinquishing, efficiency, action, and then building that momentum. That's really where it becomes like the biggest tool for success. It's only one piece of the bigger system.
I like that. Yeah. How often do you look at your vision board, and how often do you look at your goals every day? I mean,
Yeah, for me, it's a daily practice of knowing like what's the goal for the day, right? And then the overall goal, which is on the vision board, actually, if I'm looking at my computer, it is like, I would say, only about 3 feet away from my screen. So technically, it's like right in front of my face all the time. So I have it strategically placed so that if I'm kind of like, I don't know, should I move forward with this? And then I get a quick glance of my vision board and I go, wait, that's what you want. So get back up, get back in the game. So it's almost like my instant coach that's like looking at me. So it's for accountability. And it's just saying, hey, you took the time to make that vision board. Don't screw it up, right? So
And for the items on the vision board, like let's say you have a goal on the vision board, maybe hypothetically, I want to write a screenplay. I want to write this great screenplay. Like, do you break down the item on the board into digestible small chunks like you talked about in your coach? Like, do you say, okay, well, what's the first step I need to do to get from zero to finished product? And what's the
it's
second
more,
step and third step? Or what's your process for
yeah.
achieving the items on the vision board?
So you asked a good question. I think of my vision board like as a soundtrack or like the Rocky, theme song. Like it doesn't always have to be that in depth and that specific, because sometimes when you first create it, you're just like, there's just this essence that I want to capture. So that's what it's doing. Whereas on the nerdy side where I track everything, I actually love different tools. I'm sure you have different tools online that you love. For me, it's Notion. I love Notion. It's almost like when people use Trello and other things like that, Google Docs. Notion just seems to have it going on for me. And so I use that. Like that's the thing I log into every day. It has all my dashboards. I've created different dashboards for all the different projects that I have. If there's something I'm writing and trying to complete certain articles, whatever, I'm putting it all in there. So it's almost like my master online office. Everything that's going on, I can quickly get to with just a click. And that's what I love to do.
Ooh, yeah. I've tried Notion, man. And Notion is a lot of fun. I ended up just going back to Trello because I just love Trello so much.
Yeah, I think, you got to go with the tools that you love. One
Oh,
thing I love
absolutely.
about Notion, I'll teach it to you, Chris, but one thing I love is that you can customize it. And that's really why it's like, it's a blank slate. So people look at it and go, I don't know what to do with this. So as a strategist, I'm like, ooh, you tell me what you want and I'll design it the way it's supposed to work for you. And so I like tools like that because that's how I think. And so it's good to have somebody like me in someone's corner because you might want something more customized. And since I'm in those fields, yet I am on the nerdy side of it too, I can kind of congeal everything together.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, tools, man. I could do an entire podcast on tools. I just love tools so much and apps.
Yeah, get me on that. You and I can bounce back and forth. I'll be like, this
I
tool,
know.
that tool, this app.
I know. I've tried so many. I've tried them all, I feel like.
Sometimes it's good.
It
Yeah.
is. Yeah, you just got to figure out. You have to. Well, I think that's the thing is like, when you're trying to do things, you have to figure out what works for you. Like you said, what's going to work for you, what's going to be a part of your workflow. It's not going to inhibit your workflow because some tools are so complex they inhibit your workflow. Where some are too simple where you can't really get anything started. So you got to find that one or two or three tools that really just get you rolling.
Or expensive. Like I, karate chop a lot of people's expenses because I'm like, yep, you don't need this tool. Nope, you don't need that tool. Like here's one where it encompasses all of it, right? So that's always good to find more money in your pocket.
Right. And fund your dreams. That's it. Well, Marilen, how can our audience interact with you online?
I would love that so much. So I have, my Facebook presence. I'm pretty active on that platform. Instagram, if you look up Marilen Crump, you will just kind of land on everything. I try to be omnipresent. So if you want to just look me up and just say, hey, I like this angle she's taking over here. Let me connect with her there. But one thing I find is a really fun place to land is Creatives and Dreamers on Facebook. It's a free group. And really what I'm doing there, if you're creative, I love throwing like grant information that I find, any opportunities, call for entries. So if anyone's in that mode, please join that. It's open to everybody. I just share a bunch of free information all day long.
Awesome. And that's Marilen, Marilen, guys. Marilen Crump.
Yes.
All right. Well, Marilen, thank you so much for joining me. This was great to talk about dreams and the pursuit and mindset.
Yay, Chris. Let's get it.
All right. Let's do it. And we'll talk soon.
Sounds great.
All right.
How's that for inspiring? I hope you take action on one thing you learned in today's episode. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast and left a review on iTunes, I want to encourage you to do that too. Finally, be sure to visit chrisjonesinc.com to sign up for updates. Don't worry, I won't spam you. And we'll see you back here next week for another episode.